Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my pure Super Heavy Samurai Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for post-Cyberstorm access. A lot of you requested with the original Super Heavy Samurai deck list that I posted out to make a version that just focuses solely on a pure Super Heavy Samurai lineup. That means no other cards in the deck except for Super Heavy Samurai cards. I was actually quite happy with the results. You're able to keep a pretty consistent ratio of all the needed staple cards for the Super Heavy Samurai deck, and then run some adjusted numbers for some of the other Super Heavy Samurais that just help with some of the power plays, and even go for a full Super Heavy Samurai extra deck, including the new Super Heavy Samurai Commander Shinawa as one of the Synchro Pendulum options to use. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For our Super Heavy Samurai Pendulum monsters, running 3 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Prodigy Wakashi. One of the best cards in the deck. It's just an overall powerhouse. If you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can discard 1 monster to special summon 1 Super Heavy Samurai from your hand or deck in defense position. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn, except for Super Heavy Samurai monsters. And if this card is used as synchro material and added to your extra deck, you can place this card in your Pendulum Zone. You can use each effect of Super Heavy Samurai Prodigy Wakashi once per turn. So just the option for the discard can also just get you some other Super Heavy Samurai cards for your play by discarding 1 monster, which is all we run in the deck to begin with. And it's Pendulum Scale. If you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can place 1 Super Heavy Samurai Pendulum monster from your deck, except for Wakashi, in your other Pendulum Zone, and then special summon this card. So you can even just set up Wakashi in the Pendulum Zone, get your other scale, and then special summon it out without even taking up one of your normal summons. For the other Pendulum monster, I'm running 2 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Monk Big Benkei. With this card, if you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can send 1 Super Heavy Samurai Big Benkei from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and special summon this card from your hand. If it's used as synchro material and add to your extra deck, you can place it in your Pendulum Zone. You can only use each effect of Monk Big Benkei once per turn, and if you control a Super Heavy Samurai monster, you can add 1 Super Heavy Samurai Soul monster from your deck to your hand. It's a search power from the Pendulum Scale by just controlling a Super Heavy Samurai monster. So you can go for the Prodigy Wakashi, special summon after you set Big Benkei, and then just have another search for one of your Soul Super Heavy Samurai cards to then normal summon out onto the field. It's a 1-card combo that you can just do very, very well with Wakashi. We also run the 1 Big Benkei just for the summon power of being able to send it to the graveyard with your Samurai Monk Big Benkei to special summon this card from your hand, and then also being able to special summon it back onto the field if we go for a Link 1 play into cards like Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow. I also run the 3 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Motorbike. If you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can discard this card to add 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster from your deck to your hand, except for Super Heavy Samurai Motorbike. You can only use this effect of Motorbike once per turn, and once per turn you can target 1 machine monster you control and increase its level by 2. Just going for some of the bigger synchro plays if you wish, and with your Motorbike being a level 2 tuner, it just makes it all the easier having a searcher and then an additional level raiser to go into some of the higher level Super Heavy Samurai cards, especially if you search it off of your Monk Big Benkei and then you have your Wakashi on the field, so you either have a level 6 synchro play or a level 8. I also run the 3 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Scales for the special summon power if your opponent controls 2 or more monsters, and when it's summoned you can target a level 4 or lower Super Heavy Samurai monster in your graveyard, except for Scales, and special summon it in defense. So just more monster setup on the field. The good majority of our plays, except for Link summoning in the extra deck, are synchro, so you can always go for the tuner play, especially off of the discard. If you send Motorbike to the graveyard to add Scales to your hand, then you can just special summon the Motorbike back onto the field and use it with Scales. One of our other 3-ofs that we run in the deck is Super Heavy Samurai Soul Piercer. This card can just help to search out your Wakashi, because then after you send your Soul Piercer from the field as a normal summon to the graveyard for Scarecrow, you can add Wakashi off of Soul Piercer and then set the scale up to begin your play with Wakashi as well. Using our Soul Piercemaker, with this one, Super Heavy Samurai Soul Peacemaker, you can target 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand to that target, and when the equipped monster is equipped to a monster, It cannot attack monsters you control except for the equipped monster for your opponent, and you contribute a monster you control equipped with this card to special summon one Super Heavy Samurai monster from your deck. So you can even attach this card onto your Soul Piercer and have that search as well. But the best card I would say to attach your Soul Peacemaker onto is the card you can even use to search it out, and that is Super Heavy Samurai Wagon. When it's normal summon, change its battle position. This card can attack while in defense. If it does, apply its defense for damage calculation. If you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can change this card to face up defense position, to attack position, and then add one Super Heavy Samurai Soul monster from your deck to your hand. So you can add your Soul Peacemaker, equip it onto this card, and then just use that for the special summon, just like before, for your Super Heavy Samurai monster of choice. And then we also run the 3 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Flutist. It's just another easy special summon from the hand by tributing this card to special summon 1. And then it also protects your Super Heavy Samurai monsters because you can banish this card from your graveyard when your opponent or when a card or effect is activated that targets a Super Heavy Samurai monster. You can banish this card from your graveyard, negate the activation, and destroy that card. So just an easier way to rely on some of your bigger plays you want to invest in on the field, like Wakashi. If your opponent tries to target it, you can protect it at least with the Super Heavy Samurai Flutist you have on the field, and then set up in the graveyard afterwards. And I also run 2 copies, going to some of the lower numbers now. Like I said, this is a pure Super Heavy Samurai build, so we're just running nothing but Super Heavy Samurai monsters. 2 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Magnet. Very similar to Scales, except when it's normal summon, you can special summon 1 level 4 lower Super Heavy Samurai monster from your hand, then change this card to defense position. Monsters your opponent control cannot attack any monsters except for this one, so you can just summon out Magnet and then have the other special summon of any Super Heavy Samurai that might have been in your hand, whether it's Flutist, Wagon, or even another Soul Peacemaker, or Scales to get another additional special summon. You have plenty of targets in this deck to summon out with your level 4 or lower options for Super Heavy Samurai Magnet. I also run, for some of the lower numbers, 2 copies of the new Super Heavy Samurai Soul Gaia Booster. You can target one Super Heavy Samurai monster you control, equip this card from your hand or field to that monster. The equipped monster is treated as a tuner, and if you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, then when this card is equipped to that monster by this effect, you can special summon this equipped card, giving you a level 4 monster onto the field as just another easy special summon resource, or if you just need an additional Super Heavy Samurai tuner to use with your Soul Gaia Booster. I also run 2 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Big Waraji. If you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand, and after it's special summoned this way, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except for Super Heavy Samurai monsters. It can be used as 2 tributes, but the main play is just having it be a level 5 monster to then use with our level 2 tuners to summon out cards like our Super Heavy Samurai Stealth Ninja onto the field. Also, for some of the other tuners that I do run in the deck, 2 Battle Ball. Now, this card's great because you can use your opponent's monsters to special summon out a Super Heavy Samurai monster, and you can even get around some of the restrictions that those Super Heavy Samurai monsters need. But if you just have some of the bigger boss monsters on your opponent's side of the field, especially with Sword Soul, I find this works very, very well, as long as you can stop the initial monster effect, or depending on what they have on the field as well. You're not using a banish, so you'll just take that monster of your opponent's and then special summon out some of the bigger level Super Heavy Samurai monsters that we run in the deck. For more special summon power for resources, also 2 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Trumpeter for the special summon play. And then after this card is tributed for a tribute summon, you can summon it right back onto the field again to use with some of our other bigger monsters, whether it be Big Waraji or our Big Benkei or our Big Monk Benkei also. And also 2 Super Heavy Samurai Stealthy, an easy special summon onto the field, but also just being able to have no spell traps in your graveyard, to tribute this card to target a spell or trap in your opponent's graveyard and set it onto the field, giving us a resource of our opponents. I've taken Infinite Impermanences, any other cards, back row removal, you name it, with Samurai Stealthy to then use against them. And then the final one-ofs that I run in the deck is 1 copy of Super Heavy Samurai Helper, 1 Soul Claw, 1 Soul Horns, and 1 Soul Buster Gauntlet. All the different options to equip onto your Super Heavy Samurai monsters with these cards. That is it for the main deck. Like I said, it's a full Super Heavy Samurai deck if you wanted to go for a pure version of the deck. I would say this is the best lineup to go for with ratios and all of your many different Super Heavy Samurai cards. For the extra deck, we're still sticking to the theme of just Super Heavy Samurai cards. So we're running 3 Scarecrow just as a 1-card starter. For a good majority of cards, you just have the Soul Piercer, and that can start your whole combo right there, which I'll go over at the end of the video. And then just having an additional discard for a monster to target a Super Heavy Samurai monster in your graveyard and special summon it to a zone this card points to. So if you send Big Benkei off of your Big Monk Benkei to the graveyard, you can discard another monster to special summon this card back onto the field to where the arrow it points to. I also run the 1 copy of the new Super Heavy Samurai Commander Shinao. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from the Pendulum Scale. Then if you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, change that opponent's monster's attack to 0, negate its effects, and you can only use this effect of Commander Shinao once per turn. And you need 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuners to summon it. This card can attack while in face-up defense. If it does, it apply its defense for damage calc. And once per turn during the battle phase, if you control the synchro summon card, you can special summon 1 Super Heavy Samurai card from your graveyard or face-up in your spell and trap card zone. Then you can place this card in your Pendulum zone. So it can help also just to swap out some of the other cards, like Wakashi being a level 8 Super Heavy Samurai synchro pendulum to go into as well. You can use your level 4 monsters additionally with Motorbike to then just raise the level of Motorbike on the field to then go for the level 8 synchro play, which is Super Heavy Samurai Commander Shinao. Also, the 2 copies of Musashi, a level 5 synchro. When this card's synchro summoned, you can target 1 machine monster in your graveyard, add to your hand. Also, if you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you cannot normal summon or special summon a monster with its name for the rest of this turn, and it can attack while in defense. So it's just a good way to recycle some of the other cards, like being the card to add back for our Motorbike to get an additional search for this card to use, and 2 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Shuten Doji for the spell and trap destruction, and for the fact that this card can also attack while in defense. 2 copies of Super Heavy Samurai Stealth Ninja for the defense option again, and being able to special summon this card back onto the field if it was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard. And then I also run the 1 of copies of Super Heavy Samurai Ninja Sarutobi, the 1 copy of Brave Masuraro, the 1 Susanoo, and the 1 Ninja Stealth Beast QB, and the 1 Super Heavy Samurai Steam Train King, being the 1 higher level monster, along with Super Heavy Samurai Brave Musaro for the draw power, and then just the overall OTK potential that both of them can provide against your opponents. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, as I said before, the Soul Piercer can just help to set up a 1-card combo. You can go for the Soul Piercer with just the 1 normal summon, send it to the graveyard for the link summon of your Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow, activating your Soul Piercer to then search out the Wakashi to your hand, and then being able to just set the scale with Wakashi. If you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, place 1 Super Heavy Samurai Pendulum from your deck, except for Wakashi, into the other zone, which you can grab your Big Monk Benkei. And then with this card, after you do that, special summon this card. So then you special summon your Wakashi onto the field. You don't want to take up one of the arrow spots, remember, for the Scarecrow, so you can just summon it right under it. So this card will be in your scale. And then with this card, you can discard 1 additional card. It could be any card in your hand just to discard. And then with this card, you can special summon 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster from your hand or deck in defense position. So you can go for your Super Heavy Samurai Motorbike, because then you can use Motorbike to then raise its level, or target a machine monster you control and increase its level by 2. So you can even increase the level of Wakashi onto the field. And then you have a level 6 and the 2 tuner. So the Wakashi will then, when it's sent to the graveyard, you can place it in your Pendulum Scale, and then the bike will go to the graveyard. And then with that play, you can summon out your Super Heavy Samurai Commander Shinao. You can then use Shinao's effect when it is on the field once per turn if this card battles to special summon its play as well. But also with this card, you can special summon 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster from your graveyard or face up in your spell and trap card zone during the battle phase if you control this synchro summon card. So then you can take this card, go for the attack, and then while during the battle phase controlling this card, special summon the Wakashi back onto the field, and then place the Commander Shinao in your Pendulum Scale. So then you have more protection with this card in the Pendulum Scale after this card attacked. And then the following turn, you have the play for your Scarecrow, which you haven't even used yet. So you can discard 1 additional card in your hand, going for another target in the graveyard. You can go for the Motorbike as well. It is with the play, you have no spell or traps to discard this card, add a Super Heavy Samurai Search. You can only use this effect, but once per turn, it's a soft once per turn, so you could potentially raise the level of Motorbike again if you wish. If not, you could just go for the level 6 synchro play with your 2 monsters to summon out your Super Heavy Samurai Shuten Doji, clearing out your opponent's back row. And since your Pendulum Scales are full, you could always go for the other option of just placing Wakashi in the Pendulum Scale, or the face up in the extra deck. So it'll be face up in the extra deck. Then you can use use your big Monk Benkei if you control a Super Heavy Samurai monster to add 1 Super Heavy Samurai Soul monster from your deck to your hand. So with that, you can search out 1 additional Soul monster to rely on for the play you want to go to. Depending on which one you want, you have all the many different searches to go for. With the Soul Search, you could add Soul Peacemaker, because then you could Pendulum Summon out the Wakashi, since you haven't Pendulum Summoned yet, equip it with your Samurai Soul Peacemaker, and then send it to the graveyard with the effect of Soul Peacemaker. Or while the card is equipped to it, you have the play to tribute the monster. It doesn't have to be sent to the graveyard, so you'll just tribute the Wakashi, and then gain the additional special summon of a bigger boss monster, depending on which one you want, from your deck for your Super Heavy Samurais. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, I just want to take a twist on what a pure lineup for the Super Heavy Samurai deck could do. It's definitely a very, very fun version to give a try if you just wanted to go for the pure power of Super Heavy Samurais. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.